Warning: tube amplifiers have lethal voltages inside them. Please do not attempt to build, test, or repair these without understanding and following all safety protocols. Hey y'all! Well, we're back for another segment on the color preamp. And you're like, well, what is this? Yeah, this isn't the color preamp. This is just sitting here on my bench, and my next project I'm working on. But anyway, going to show you the ins and outs of assembling or wiring up this color preamp. And for you guys that may have built one before, you can see the revisions that I'm doing to the wiring layout, which I think is making the inside, or at least the layout, a lot cleaner. A couple of little tips along the way about insulating tag strips and stuff that I've learned. So even if you're not planning on doing these, you probably learned something from watching the video. So let's get busy building this little preamp. Okay, so first, this is the little HiFi soldering iron that I like using. It's a FX888D, and I have it set at 750 degrees Fahrenheit. Been just using the stock tip that it comes with. It's got a nice little stand, got a little place to put your water sponge, and then it's got just a nice feel. Handle stays nice and cool, and it's been super reliable and just a really nice unit. So on the solder, I really like this MG Chemicals RA Flux. I use the 050 or 18 gauge. It's got the little pink label. This stuff works really nice. It flows well. It's got a good melting point. It's your traditional 60-40 solder. And yeah, just it works really good. So if you're having trouble soldering, it easily could be the kind of solder you're using or the flux it has. And this stuff works fantastic. Let's get busy soldering this thing together. So we're going to start by putting the wires on this side of the tube. And these things sometimes like to flip around, so let's hope we don't. Usually if you can get one end kind of tagged down. There we go. It'll stay in place while you come in and do the other side. And I apply the tip to the tag first because it's got more mass. It takes a little longer to heat up. And you just want to tag it in the corner. You don't want to like solder up that whole hole yet because we're going to be soldering some more things in it. And then this one, I'm going to see if I can get this side here tagged down. Like that. And then I'm going to slide this guy out a little bit like that. Come in and solder it in. Like that. And then finally, we got this guy. I'm going to do the same thing and try to tag down this end of the wire first. Sometimes I might try to get a little better lighting setup, because I know when I'm coming in here soldering, sometimes it blocks the light. Try not to do that any more than I have to. The next piece we got is this plate load resistor. It goes across. It goes across here, like this. Get that. There we go. Like that. And then it's nice to have like a small screwdriver or something that you can use to kind of prop up components while you're soldering them where you want them to stay. And sometimes you have to kind of get creative on how you're going to hold the part where you want it. There we go. Like that. And then come in and again, we don't want to fill these holes up because we've got several other parts to add to these strips. We just want to tack these guys in place, and then we can kind of make it pretty later. Again, try not to block the light so you can see what I'm doing here. There we go. Got that guy right there where we want him. We can straighten him out just a little bit. And then I'm going to push him down. Get him out of the way of this next little unit that's going in, which is going to be our cathode resistor. And it does help if you can have a little bit of tension on the wire to the tag strip so that it'll kind of hold your part in place. And you might have to trim one side like that so it'll fit through the hole while you're trying to slip it in there. Like that. And stick our little screwdriver through to hold this guy in place while we tag these two corners. Like that. And then once you get one side in place, you can kind of get it where you get it where you want it to sit, and solder the other side up. And then the next thing we're going to do right now, though, is we're going to put this grid stopper in place. It goes from here as you can see, I got this bit where this is in a little bit of a tension. It makes it easier to come in and solder this without this thing just falling out. As you can see, it doesn't take very much heat to get the end out of the tube socket soldered, where these tag strips have a little more mass to them. It takes a little bit more heat to get them hot enough to the solder to melt to the actual tag strip. And you want to make sure that you get it hot enough. You don't want to have cold solder joints. I have quite a few people email me with problems with amps that they've built, and then it turns out that it was a cold solder joint, and they had to just come back in and reflow everything. I'm going to bend that down just a little bit, and there we go. You can see that all looks great. So that basically has this side of the triode wired up. So let me go get the pieces cut up to do this other side over here, and we'll come back and solder those in place. Okay, so time to work on the other side of the tag strip. This is the grid stopper for the cathode follower or the second triode. So we come in here and try to tag in this little end down here first. Here we go. Get that soldered. We can take out our little prop here, and I'm gonna roll it down just a little bit, like that. Come in here and solder the back of this. Like that. Yep, that's all connected. Next we have our 1 meg grid leak resistor, and it goes across here. I have to come in and prop this guy up just a little bit like that. Let's see if I can do this without completely blocking the light. Yeah. Set that guy down a little bit like that, and get this other side tagged down. Like that. That's happy. Then we have the, let's go ahead and do these 2 resistors on the back side here. I'm going to tack down this one side here. And come in and lift this guy up a little bit. Like that. And then solder the other side. That. Then we have the other cathode resistor that goes to ground, and it's going to sit across there like so. And we can go ahead and pretty much fill this hole in because nothing else is going there. Like that. Hold that over like that. And I don't believe anything else is going in here either, so we'll go ahead and just fill this hole up as well. Like that. And then those 2, actually I'm going to solder these 2 leads together right here. Just like that. And then we finally have the wire that goes from the cathode over to our tag strip. And we'll have most of this wired up. The only thing we have left is we got a couple of cathode bypass caps and the coupling cap that goes across between the plate and the grid of the 2 triodes. Come in and solder this side. Like that. Go. We got our little cathode wire across there, and there we go. We got that all soldered up. Now let me go get this bypass cap to put across here, and then I'll show you where this coupling cap is going to go across here, and we're actually just about ready to power this thing up. Oh, and the last thing I got to do is run the B plus over here to these two terminals. So let me get those wires bent up, find those caps. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're ready to solder in the cathode bypass cap. But these are some Nikon Muse. They're highest end ones they make, which are these little blue and black ones. And they go from this terminal, which is the cathode, to that terminal. And the same thing over here. And if I roll it up a little bit, you can see the resistor there behind them, which is this guy right here and right there. So let's solder these two caps in place. And we'll go ahead and just fill up that solder hole there. And the same thing with this one over here. And then we'll trim off the excess lead. And I did go ahead and wire up the input jacks in the input potentiometers, and they lay out really nice. I think you'll agree when you see how that turned out. There we go. Like I said, we come in here and just snip off the excess lead, and make sure you don't snip off the capacitor lead while you're doing that. Don't ask me how I know to warn you about that. And there we go. We got our cathode bypass caps. The last thing we got to do as far as the circuit is install the coupling cap, and they go across here just like that. And let me see if I can tack this in without knocking it over. Get one end tacked down. Nope, that's okay. Sorry, I had to block the camera while I was holding that up for the solder to cool off. And then on this end, we'll go ahead and get that soldered in place. Probably come back and stand the preamp up on its sides so I can touch up these solder joints and make all of them nice and pretty. And again, make sure that you get really good solder joints. I can't tell you how many times I've had people email me building one of my projects, and they're going through telling me what's going on with it, or measuring voltage and all this stuff, and none of it's making any sense. And I'm like, please go back and reflow all the solder joints. Let's make sure we don't have something dumb happening. And every time they email me back and they said, you're right, I reflowed the solder joints and it works fine now. So I can't overstress how important that is. And like I said, I'm showing you this on camera. It's nice if you stand the amp on its front or its back or whatever and have these flat or level, so that when you're soldering it, the solder is working with gravity in your favor and not against you, like running down the joint. It just flows and fills up the whole joint. So I'm going to come back and do that. But let me show you what we did here on the RCA input jacks. I think this is a good angle where you can see everything pretty clearly. You run this ground wire from here, and then it comes down and it ties these two jacks together, which are the two right channel grounds. It comes over here to this pin on the little input potentiometer. Same thing over here. Got this ground, comes over and it picks up both the ground points on the left side jacks. You have the center point of the RCA jack come down to the far end of the switch. Same thing over on this side. And then you have the center of this jack coming to the back side of that one. Same thing here, the center of this jack comes up to the back terminal on this DP-DT switch. And then the center terminals come over here to this end of the wiper on this jack. And you can see this one kind of zigzags and goes over to the top of this one. Then all we have left is to use some shielded cable because we're going a little further distance across the amp. I can't see trying to make shielded cable for these little short jumper wires. It would just be a real mess. And I've done them like this before and hadn't had any noise, but I do plan on running a shielded wire from here over to the tag strip, and the center terminal hooks up there where the outer jacket shield goes onto the ground. And then it comes over here to the tag strip. This is the ground where the outer shield's going to connect. The center connects to this terminal, which goes to the grid of the preamp tube. And the same thing here. This is the ground where the outer part of the shielded wire goes. And the center terminal connects here. That goes to the grid on this tube. And that'll have everything hooked from the RCA jacks up here in the front over to the preamp tubes. And I'm actually ready to power this thing up. And then all we have left is put a pair of these big 6.8 UF Mundorf caps up in the front of the amp that block the DC from the output, which is down here on the cathode, up to the volume control switch in the front. And we'll do all that in the next segment. This looks like another fun place to wrap up this video. Well, you can see in 2 segments we've almost got this little guy built. We've probably got another 5 or 10 minute segment on doing the final little wiring stuff on it, and this thing will be finished. And in the next video I'm going to go over the schematic and kind of the theory of operation and explain how the power supply and the circuit and everything all works together, and why decisions were made the way they are, and what makes this such a unique preamp. There's really nothing like it on the market. And so it's a really neat little thing. Eventually I want to try to do a 6S7 version of this, but for now we're just using the 1287. These little clear top RCAs sound so good that I'm not rushing to do another style. But maybe for my next monster amp project that I've got in the wings, we'll do a 6S7 driver tube version, because it might scale a little more appropriately with those big amps. So look forward to messing with that. And again, there's probably one more video coming, and I'm also contemplating making this a kit. So leave in the comments below if you might be interested in one. And it's like built, they sell for $1,000, and I might be able to knock a couple $100 off supplying as a kit. And I know that's not, like these $200 or $150 kits on eBay from China, but that's not what this is either. This is going to be with quality stuff, and yeah, it's just a different thing. And it is point-to-point wired, so I think it's easier to wire up in some ways than even the circuit board ones. And you, to me, understand more about what's going on. And I just think this point-to-point stuff sounds better. So, anyway, thanks for being a supporter of my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Thanks for being a member of my Patreon, or a member of the channel for you guys that are, or have made donations to my website in the past, or bought my products and helped keep this thing going financially. And hey, if you just watch my videos, that's cool too. So anyway, until the next segment, have a nice day.